Hi everyone, this is a video I wanted to share of a creation of a piece for an exhibition, and I'm going to put the details in the post and I'll pop it up here on the screen as well. So it's a wildlife art exhibition, and the deadline is, it's now Thursday, 22nd of August, and the deadline is Friday. So although I've kind of jotted down some ideas of what I wanted to do, I thought, oh, I'll do something when I get back from holiday. And of course, it's just the week's gone really quick. So, you know, at the moment, it's possible I'll get it done. It's possible I'll get it in time. And if I don't get it in time, at least I've got something I've created. Yeah, so this is an annual exhibition, an annual kind of competition for anyone who creates wildlife art or illustration. And I spotted it quite a few months ago, and of course, you know, I've just not really done anything with it, and then I kind of forgot, and then I remembered and then forgot. So, but yeah, I've been kind of mulling over a few ideas, and the kind of, there's not a huge amount of, I mean, apart from the fact it needs to be, I think there's certain size restrictions, but it's more about making sure that the work isn't just like almost like a drawing of just something from like a photo. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I can find an example. So yeah, rather than it just being, so for instance, like with this puffin, like I thought, I had a look at what I had existing, some existing work, and thought, oh, I wonder whether something could fit that I had already. And there's a couple of things that could have worked. So for instance, I was thinking about this, the puffin doesn't really have much of a sense of place. So that's the main part, the main thing of this, is that it needs to feel like it's, you know, you've been observing it and you've actually been out in the environment that it lives or breeds or feeds or whatever, and it's just that you're actually kind of observing it from life as opposed to from drawings and just drawing from a photo. So that was kind of quite an important part of it. And when I've looked at some of the examples from previous years of the ones that have been successful and have gone into the exhibition, yeah, they've all had that sense of place and has had like a background or environment with it. So, I mean, this one that I did in my nature journal kind of could, but it still didn't feel like there was enough going on. I could have maybe added a bit more to it, or maybe redrawn it and added some more with this, because it was this was when I saw this siskin, this bird, I actually heard it and then just got a glimpse of it in the tree, and then when I went back and did some research, I discovered that, and it was in an older tree and it likes the older seed. So that was a really nice example of seeing something and then producing something based on an actual experience and first-hand experience with that wildlife. So I could have gone back, but I wasn't sure if it was strong enough, and so I jotted down some ideas of what kind of things I wanted to do. So for instance, like thinking about all of the different experiences I've had with birds in particular, I was thinking about other animals like other wildlife, but I thought birds was kind of my main focus at the moment. So there was an encounter I had with some sparrowhawks recently, and they were in a local churchyard, and I saw them a couple of times trying to take it down a wood pigeon. That was a really exciting, interesting kind of experience. To see that firsthand felt really special, but I wasn't really sure how I would kind of capture that, and I knew I didn't have a huge amount of time, so I didn't want to overcomplicate things. Again, obviously with the Coma and the puffins, I thought, well, that could be really nice. There was definitely things I could do there with the environment, and that was something I'd earmarked as like, okay, that would be a really good one. And I'd also noted down the swifts and the house martins that were in my street. I saw some bats recently on our street. It was kind of quite atmospheric because they were kind of swooping across, like almost near the street lights, so you could kind of get this little shadow of movement as it was obviously feeding on the insects that were flying around in the evening. But then there was also things like I saw there was my rural fox sighting from a couple of years ago, and whether I could produce a piece based on that. But I just kept coming back to the goldfinches, because the goldfinches, like, almost like, I'll kind of talk about this a bit more at the end of my monthly roundup, but it's kind of like my spark bird is the bird that I remember seeing and thinking and being really captivated and fascinated by, and thinking, wow, these are, how have I overlooked all these creatures for so long and not really taken enough notice? So I felt like that was quite a special one to do, and it was one of the first kind of bird illustrations I did, which is of a goldfinch, and I had some footage that I'd taken of the goldfinches feeding on these seeds in the garden. Very wobbly, shaky footage, but it was, you know, I'd managed to capture that moment of them feeding on these seeds quite close to me. Normally I'd only ever see them from kind of a bit further away or at the feed on my tree, but it was, yeah, a really great moment. So I thought that's what I would like to focus on, and I wanted to use my new watercolours from Deep Light as well and incorporate those in. So once I'd made that decision, I then thought about what I could, I'm going to try and zoom in a bit because I think it's going to be hard to see, like what I would create, and whether it would be portrait, landscape. I had this image of this video of this this goldfinch, and there was a fruit, I think it was 2 or 3 in this cornflower plant, and that was a really nice one. And I like the idea of them overlapping and then being surrounded by all these seed heads and eating these seeds. So once I decided on that, I was then starting to think about the colour palettes that I would use. So I just started to use some of the watercolours, and I started to swatch and try and figure out what colours I was going to use, and I was testing out different colours. So here I've got some. So in the end, I'm going to try and figure out which one's which. I think it's that one. So yeah, J Blue, Mars Black, this is Bent Grass. I was going to use Bark, but then I think in the end I was going to use Umbra, and then the Great Tip, the yellow, and then I was going to use a mixture of these reds because there wasn't one red that kind of worked, so I was going to blend together these 3 different reds. And then I'm trying to figure out what my Mars Black is now, and I've got Mars Black and Raven as well, which I thought were really nice because I really needed to get that deep kind of deep black, of kind of a bluey black of the darker feathers. And then for the green of the foliage, I was kind of toying with which ones to do. I didn't want it to be too cold or too warm. I wanted it to kind of sit back a bit and not be too prominent. So this was the I think this is Fern Green, this one. Yeah, I think, oh no, actually Fern Green, I ended up, this was one that was already pre-made, but I was making my own greens by using the J Blue, the Great Tit, and also some zinc white, and I was making my own greens. But actually I think this Fern one actually worked out well. And then for the cornflowers themselves, I didn't want that really quite bright purple because I thought it would clash, so I've toned it down, and I was going for more of like a bluey, kind of purpley blue. And then I did a little test run here. Just going to move these back. And then I just did a little bit of a sketch here to see how it would look, and you can kind of see, like, I was just trying to make sure that the colours all kind of worked. Yeah, so they were kind of starting to work. I kind of did this little thumbnail at the bottom here just to get a sense of how it would look with so much green in the background. And then I started thinking how I would mask out some of these, because some of the stems, I didn't want them to be dark, I wanted them to be lighter. So I wanted the stems to be lighter than some of the background, and obviously the goldfinches to be lighter. So I started also thinking about whether I wanted to layer up some pastels, and I was trying that out. And then this one was me basically using a bit of masking tape and masking fluid to see how I could mask out those areas to make it easier to get that depth of the background. Now I did use, just for ease and speed, I did actually just use like a green umber ink, water-based ink, in the like a watercolor ink in the background, but it was too cold green, so I knew I needed to warm it up a little bit by using the watercolors. But then also I discovered that once I'd done this test, I thought, well, the stems are too thick, there's too many stems, it's too confusing, and there was just more work that I needed to do. Yeah, the green was too uniform, it needed a bit more of a variation, more of a gradient maybe going out to the edges so it's softer. And then I started thinking about the size I wanted to do, and then I needed to test it out on some paper. So this was the Cassart 300 gram paper. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Sorry, it's a bit dark in here because it's late afternoon now. I'm not sure how the colours are showing up, but I'll take some photos as well in better daylight. So yeah, this was a test where I used just the masking fluid, and I think it worked a lot better. It was much softer, and I was just testing out a bit more of a softer edge, not putting too much detail in the cornflowers. I didn't really want that to be the focus. I want the focus to be these almost like jewel-like birds with the the beautiful vivid colours kind of coming out, and it being like this magical moment and being this kind of like mist, like that's why I wanted to kind of bring across a bit of the atmosphere and not be like an exact representation of what I was seeing. Just to bring across some of my own style really and how I like to work, and also because of time, I didn't want to spend loads of time getting really fiddly with every leaf and every stem and everything, so I wanted to that's something I needed to be conscious of as well. I really wanted to work a bit more on getting this gradient, because the subtle mottling of the granulation of the watercolors is so lovely, so I wanted to make this a bit bigger as well so I could get a bit more of that in. Yeah, so these are some good kind of tests and trying out different things. I had a bit of an issue getting the masking fluid off. It actually ripped some of the paper, and although it wasn't the end of the world, it's not ideal, so I might need to try and use a bit less masking fluid or just be a bit more careful. So yeah, it was quite interesting, but I haven't got a huge amount of time. I knew I needed to do all of this stuff because I didn't want to just work on something and then just kind of make those mistakes on final pieces, because I knew that would be really frustrating. So I just needed to do these tests, but I'm hoping now that because I've done this, it won't take me that long to do the actual final piece, but who knows? It may not work out. It may not work out. I don't tend to do, I'm not very well practiced at doing like backgrounds, and I tend to do a lot of these things like, these little studies where it's just there's very minimal background or just the bird itself. So this is a whole new thing for me. So I feel like I'm learning as I'm going, and I know I'm not going to be like 100% happy with it, and there's going to be lots of things that I want to change, but I think I want to give it a go, because I've not submitted anything to a exhibition or competition or anything like that for a really long time, so it would be really nice to do it and actually finish something and actually work through things rather than just a haphazard work something down in my sketchbook, hope it works kind of way. More of a kind of controlled, more precise, more kind of end result type piece of work. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think there's gonna be lots to learn from this, and it's really nice. Yeah, very different working with watercolor as opposed to inks, because it's just having to layer up those, that you're working with obviously much more like more opaque washes. So that's something I'm learning as well. Whereas I might just put down, if I wanted like a nice strong color, I put down some gouache, maybe some inks that are already pre-made and stuff like that. So this is a really interesting exercise. Yeah, so I'm seeing how it comes out. I'm going to show you a bit of the process I have now drawn, what I've actually done is I've drawn out, this might not be very easy to see, but you can kind of get the sense that I've drawn this kind of very faint sketch, because I knew that I needed to get the expressions and the base. There were certain things I really needed to get right. Some of the way that the stems are going, I wanted to kind of not do too much, and also make sure I placed the flower heads in the right way so that it wasn't going to be too overpowering. So I knew I had to kind of spend a bit of time on that. And I just did a little bit of work, because some of the head itself has got this really interesting leaf formation overlapping, and it was making sure that I'd kind of got that right, because it's okay if I was to, like, you know, for some of the flower petals weren't perfect, but I think as long as some of it's kind of fairly well observed, I can have some of it being a bit kind of washy, or a bit, you know, a bit grey, like a bit more of a gradient, or half finished. But yeah, some of it did need to be well observed. So, and I like the idea of, maybe I really like these shapes, so I was thinking about whether I try and almost mimic these kind of triangular leaf shapes in these stems, and try and, yeah, just work a bit more on the composition and be more considered. So that's where I'm at now. And what I'm going to now start doing is masking off some of the areas with masking fluid. I probably won't show you the whole time lapse from beginning to end, because I think it will be very long. So I'll just do maybe sections of it, the most important bits, so like the adding the masking fluid, adding some of the washes, but maybe some of the detail I'll just do a smaller amount of the video. Oh, sorry, I'll film a smaller amount of that, because otherwise it will be a very long one. So yeah, okay, I will come back once I've done a bit more, and I'll be back soon. Hi, so I have masked out this area with the masking fluid. Didn't want to put too much on. I put on a couple of extra, one maybe two extra layers here and there, but I didn't want to do loads because it does have a habit of peeling the paper off, so I wanted to be a bit careful, but we'll see how it goes. So I have been mixing, I've just been preparing some colours to start with. So these are the deep like watercolours, and a little bit of ink here as well. Burnt umber, sorry, not burnt umber, green umber. And this is like a graphite, and then I've made like kind of a bluey grey as well from mixing some of the diamine inks. Sorry, mixing some of the deep light watercolours. And then we have got the fern bark. This is the forget-me-not, I think, deep blue. I think that's an umber, like a brown umber. And then this one here is the Great Tit, the yellow, which is really nice because that's going to be really important for warming it up. So I'm going to switch to time lapse again, and I'm going to put my first wash on to get the kind of darker background, and we'll see how it goes. So what I've done is I put a wash down. I was going to do another layer, then I decided not to. So I've peeled off this masking fluid, and actually I've managed to not rip it paper, so that's really good. And I've left these because I want these to stay. I wanted to come back and paint those at the end. So what I'm going to do now is put another wash, kind of lighter wash, not over the whole thing, but around, because I wanted to fade a bit like I've done on here. I don't want them to be this white, I want them to be a bit more faded like this. So I want them to do another layer to knock back that white, the white of the paper. Yeah, so that'll be the next step. The light is fading fast, so I'm going to work quite quickly now. Yeah, so I'll show you the next stage. So I have put another wash on. I've added some blue around the cornflowers, done a little bit more work, peeled off the liquid masking fluid. I got there in the end for the birds, and then I also did do a little bit of masking for these seeds, for the leaves on the seed heads of the cornflowers as well, just because I wanted to make them stand out a little bit more. Yeah, so just kind of working, you know, layer upon layer. Didn't want to go too heavy with it. I wanted to kind of try and keep it a bit lighter, like compared to this one, which I think I got a bit heavy. I did also put a bit of pastel down first, which I didn't do on this one, and I'm preferring it's a bit lighter. I don't want to do too much more. I don't want to knock back too much of the leaves. I feel like there's kind of a nice balance now, and obviously I'm going to work back on top anyway with other things like pencils. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of getting there. So now I need to work on the birds. I'm going to redraw in back some of the details so I know where I'm going with the eyes and things, just really lightly, and then I'll paint that in, and then I'll probably come back to this then tomorrow morning. And yeah, it's always good to look at things with a fresh pair of eyes and then try and get it submitted for the deadline. So hopefully I don't mess this bit up. It might look okay. So yeah. Hello, I thought I'd just quickly come back just to share kind of how it's going. It's okay, it's okay. It's not like, there's definitely more I could do. I kind of wish I had put maybe a darker wash in the background, or maybe I could work a bit more on it, but I've got to submit it now. So I've got about 10 minutes I can spend just, getting rid of any pencil lines and just tidying it up a little bit. But it's kind of going to have to just be as finished as it's going to be. Yeah, so it's an interesting exercise in working on something that's just had a bit of a tight deadline, and something where I had to just maybe not over worry and overthink things. So it was really good for that, and kind of just nice to submit something to a competition because I haven't done that in so long. So yeah, I think it's all right. I think maybe I could have done the birds a bit bigger in the picture, maybe a little bit more work on the cornflowers because they've kind of lost a little bit some of their definition. So there's things I would like to do. I could probably easily spend another couple of hours on this, but anyway, I'm going to say it's almost finished, and then it's done. And it's, even though I'm not 100% happy with it, sometimes that's just a good exercise, isn't it? I think it's you know, if things aren't going right, if I had been doing this on my own without the competition, without having to enter it into anything, I probably would have just maybe started again, or maybe just given up, or, you know. So this is me trying to just think, well, finished is sometimes is, you know, it's not perfect, but it's finished. Sometimes that's what you have to do, is finished but not perfect, and that's fine. And then just to move on and just move on to something else and use it as like a learning experience. So yeah, it's okay. There's things I would change, but it's all right. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to turn out. So that's good. So yeah, I'll be sharing this as a post, as almost like a time lapse of me using my watercolours. And it was really, like, I really didn't have to use very much at all. It's very messy little palettes now. And then I used a bit of pencil and stuff on tops, but it was mostly watercolours. Tiny bit of ink, but yeah, it was really nice to sit and use them properly and to really get a feel for it. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to doing some more drawings, more paintings rather, with these paints. So yeah, I look forward to sharing this with you. Any questions about it, please let me know in the comments or drop me a message, and I'll also list all of the colours that I've used. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Bye.